and welcome to the latest edition of Wrestling Wednesdays. Now, my guest this week is an incredible high-flying Canadian who's toured all around Europe on multiple occasions. I think it's 7 times. Lifted multiple tag team championships, and I believe a couple of singles. Is it 8 times now? Wow, there you go.
8 times.
8 times around Europe. It is the double V, the V man himself, Vaughn Vertigo. Vaughn, lovely to have you.
Hey man, how you doing today?
Good. How's everything going with yourself now? You made the big comeback from an injury.
Yeah, not too bad. I'm excited to get rolling. This past weekend was very busy for being my first weekend back, but I wanted to be thrown right into the fire, so it worked out pretty well.
Good. And was it quite exciting, obviously, knowing when you were coming through? Did you let people know you were coming back?
Yeah, I mean, promoters knew, but I didn't really tell like the general public because 2 of those matches were, well, I guess I only had 2 matches, but I had 1 run-in, so it was 3 days. So 2 of them were surprises. Only 1 of them was an actual match. So
sweet, very exciting. Fair enough.
Yeah.
And I was sorry, before we get into your career, I was going to ask how you coped, obviously, during that period of time. Obviously, what were you getting up to? Obviously, a lot of rehab and physical recovery, but how were you keeping yourself sane and going through the motions?
Just like trying to like put content out and to be present, really, like, because it's hard. Like I had like a shoulder injury for 4 weeks, so I was off for that, and then I had my appendix out, which is another 4 weeks. And then I was kind of able to get going again, so I kind of had like 6 weeks where I was able to wrestle, but I had to be very careful. And that's kind of where I fit the European tour in. And then another 6 weeks of recovery. So it was just like trying to keep relevant, really, just keep posting stuff on social media.
Yeah, I mean that's one great thing about yourself, though. You are very active. Is that something you think has been helped by? You've got a background, obviously, in sort of media education. Is that something you're able to delve into to add to your career?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I went to school for television broadcasting and never really kind of went into the television side, kind of went into videography, but I've always been trying to make content and just push it out there because like there's a lot of wrestlers in independent wrestling, and a lot of them don't kind of take the effort to kind of showcase themselves, kind of thing. And I just kind of wanted to prove it, like if you keep putting content out there, it'll kind of reward you.
And through, obviously, just before we get into any more of it, throughout your career, obviously, because you started from quite young, you've established yourself over a long period, even though you're still very young. Have you noticed the change that social media has brought to that, about the fact that you're able to get yourself out and get booked by a promoter by doing that work, rather than relying on someone booking you or suggesting that they should hire you?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely noticed, like when I came out of wrestling school, they didn't really teach us how to get booked other than just like to show up and help. And sure, that's one part of it, but social media was really just becoming a thing for independent wrestling. And a lot of Canadian companies didn't even film their shows. So it was kind of hard to like push that content out there. But thankfully, like since the pandemic, like pretty much every company has upped their game and kind of followed in the UK suit of having good production behind every show that gets put out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the important thing, isn't having a show. That's why people like myself get to see you in action more regularly. So that's great. Going back to, obviously, I wanted to, before we delve into your recent tour over here and some of the matches you've had, it would be great to hear a bit about your background in terms of starting off with Squared Circle and Barry Wrestling, and how you fell into the tag team division.
Yeah, for sure. So I started training back in 2010 when I was 14 years old. I was in grade 9, which was Squared Circle Wrestling in Toronto, about an hour and a half from where I live. So my dad would drive me up to training every weekend. I trained there throughout high school. I was only able to make it up like Saturdays and Sundays. It was kind of hard to get up there on a Tuesday or Wednesday when they had classes. So eventually I was able to debut when I was 17 for Squared Circle. Did like a few singles matches, and then I was put together with Gabriel Fuerza, who was my best friend in real life anyways. We met through wrestling training. We didn't initially really want a team, but they put us together and we kind of realized that, oh, we have chemistry and we can use this to our advantage. And from there, that led us into like Barry Wrestling and C4 Wrestling and Smash Wrestling and all these companies around Canada.
Yeah, and what are those shows like? Are they quite similar in terms of the style of audience, or are they do some differ between family and a bit more indie adult style?
I'd say there's probably a lot more family shows than there is to like the kind of like smart mark like wrestling crowds. I'd say like Smash and C4 are more towards like that kind of crowd, and Barry's kind of like a good mixture of both. But I would say for the majority, at least, of shows in Canada, they're mostly family.
Okay. And when about in your career did you discover your desire to hit the Vaughn Tom bomb? the incredible finishing move off the top rope. I love the little. I mean, is that a Jeff Hardy reference, the alarm thing beforehand, or is that something yourself?
It's a Jeff Hardy reference. So I did a a match for Evo Uno's promotion, Loot 07. I want to say it was like 2018 or something like that. And I was using the Swanton Bomb as a finishing maneuver, and just like everybody does a Swanton is the issue. And you hear about how Jeff Hardy like killed his hips just doing the Swanton over the years. So you notice he started like killing people on it and just like really crushing people. So Cecil Nix, a wrestler up here, made a suggestion that like, why don't you try doing it to the back? And I hadn't really thought about it. And I did it, and I was like, oh, I could land on my feet from this. This is cool. I don't have to land like on my hips. I don't have to ruin my body. And it looks neat, right? So I know like Flash Morgan Webster does one where the guy's like kneeling over. So I started doing the bent over one kind of thing. But yeah, it's kind of become like probably one of my favorite moves in my arsenal for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible to as a visual. I mean, it's something that obviously, you know, it really stands out. And I think that's again that obviously you're very talented and very athletic, but your mindset is obviously helping with all your success because you're thinking of all these different elements. You're thinking, how can I add something a bit more unique? How can I do this for my character? How can I promote myself? And I think that really pays off. And that's why fans like myself and everyone else resonate with you in that way, that we can read into this guy really cares about trying to give us a memory, you know.
That's exactly it. Like I try to take like my favorite wrestlers and take something that they've done and then kind of make it my own. Like I do like the Twist of Fate as an ode to Jeff and Matt Hardy, but it's an elevated like Tower London off the top rope. I do like the Edge-O-Matic, which is like the sit out neck breaker thing. I do that as like a vault. Like it's just trying to make like a way of making it your own, so that way if it's like ever replicated on a show, they're like, oh, that's Vaughn's move, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you own it now. It's right. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Was that the time of wrestling then that influenced you, sort of the Hardys and the Attitude Era, and then going into the Noughties?
Yeah. So like, this always blows people's mind, but like my best friend growing up, his aunt was Trish Stratus.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, so we'd be like playing SmackDown versus Raw, and like I'd be looking through the characters, and I'd be like, "Your aunt's in this game? This is ridiculous." And then of course everybody in school was like, "Dude, your aunt's so hot." And we were like grade 6 or whatever. Felt so bad for him. But yeah, like I started watching wrestling in like 2006, 2007. So like the Hardys, Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels, Edge, like those are all my guys.
Yeah, incredible influences to have though for what you do, and obviously you can see that in your work. Um, Obviously, you mentioned about the injuries. You obviously toured the UK recently and toured Europe with with injuries. Don't know how on earth you competed in those matches. ICW is Insane Championship Wrestling, and obviously one of the biggest companies over here in the UK. Scotland's premier wrestling company. You've had 3 or 4 matches with them that sort of are go-tos for people. You know, anyone who's not seen them, definitely get on their subscription service or whatever you can to watch them. I wonder if you could talk just a little bit about what it was like working for the company, the crowd, how that differs from Canada, and maybe if we start off with Martin Kirby.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, Insane Championship Wrestling is one of those companies that you want to kind of check off on the bucket list. And at the time, they were working with the WWE Network, so that was another thing that I was really excited about. Yeah, working with Martin Kirby, I think that was my second match for ICW, and that was one where I was like, oh, I get to go with a legend of independent wrestling. And like, I don't think I understood like the scope of what, because I knew Martin Kirby was like a big deal, and I knew he was part of What Culture and Defiant, but I didn't really understand the scope of how powerful he was until I posted the match graphic. And then fans back in Canada were like, dude, you're wrestling Martin Kirby? That's awesome. And that was probably my favorite match I had in ICW as well. It was like a quick, like 8 minutes, opened the show, and it was just, everything was so clean. I was just very happy with it. And yeah, the ICW fans are really cool. The studio they have there's a really neat setup as well.
Yeah, I mean that's incredible. I think obviously, yeah, Kirby's is one of the all-time greats over here, and obviously everyone knows him worldwide. And I think that's what, you know, putting you two together with your skill set is quite an exciting thing. And even though selfishly you'd probably like it to last a bit longer, I think a quick match between you two is probably ideal. You get everything in and tell the story so beautifully. So Jason Reed obviously was that your first match in ICW?
So I believe my first match was for the 0G Championship with Dylan Thorne, who was the champion at the time. Then I wrestled Martin Kirby like a month later while I was still there. Then I did a Wrestling Experience Scotland show, which is kind of ICW related. I wrestled Daz Black, and that's a match I need to go back for because Daz Black is somebody who is absolutely killing it right now. And unfortunately, he's out with an injury right now. And then when I came back in October, that's when I wrestled Jason Reed, and that was another fun one. Like that's another guy who like really understands him, who he is as a character as well.
Yeah, it's good storytelling between you both. Is that the title you think you're going to try and get your hands on next?
I would love to get the Zero G Championship. I think that would be wonderful. There's a huge history of champions there, and obviously for like my style of wrestling, I think that would make the most sense.
Yeah. One of the last, I think it was the last match with ICW was the Leighton Buzzard one, which I think is the Twitter clip. If people want to see it of you hitting your Vaughan bomb on him, how was that match for you?
That was great. Like Leighton and I go back to like just before the pandemic, we wrestled each other for company out in Blackpool, and it was just one of those scenarios where like we just clicked immediately. We kept in touch over the pandemic. He started blowing up in ICW over the pandemic, and then thankfully he was the one who kind of got me back to come back up to ICW because I'd never wrestled in Scotland before, so I was very excited to go up there. Fast forward to like a year later, he starts getting booked for WXW. WXW comes to Toronto. I have a great match with Axel Tischer, and the promoter said, "How do you feel about wrestling Leighton Buzzard at the 16 Carat weekend?" And I was like, there's literally no more perfect opponent because we have this history and like there's such a story that we can build around this. So I was very happy we got to do that. We were like semi-main event on the show too, which was really fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's beautiful. I like that sort of story. Now I've heard obviously when I've listened to a couple of interviews before about your tours around Europe, you've hit a lot of countries. Yeah. Where are your sort of favorite places to have worked so far?
Oh man, I really like everywhere because they're all just kind of unique. Like I think from this past tour, getting to do OTT, even though I wasn't actually in Ireland, I was in Northern Ireland. Mm-hmm. Getting to do OTT up in Londonderry was such a fun experience. I got to wrestle LJ Cleary, who, if you go down like the OTT roster, if there was a guy I wanted to wrestle the first time I was there, it was LJ. So doing that was really fun. I hope I get a chance to come back and wrestle in Dublin. Got to spend some time in Dublin for a couple days while I was there too, which really made the best of it. I also did Copenhagen while I was there, and second time back for Body Slam, and that's just like such a lovely city. And the fans there, man, they're like drunk the entire time, and like it's such a fun atmosphere.
Yeah, but happy drunk. It's not like
oh yeah.
Not lads on tour kind of drunk.
Happy drunk and like so tall because they're so Scandinavian. I think the first time I wrestled there, you can actually audibly see me say it as I come out. I'm like, holy shit, these people are tall.
Yeah, as you start jumping high fives, that was the same feeling.
Oh my god.
So short. So obviously you mentioned there about getting down to see a bit of Dublin. Is that quite unique for you then when you're on tour? Do you not really is it quite a lot of travel and you don't really get to see much of the culture around it, or is that something you're trying to do going forward?
It always varies on like the company and the promotion. Like if the show's on Saturday, I have nothing going on Friday, I'll make sure to make a point of like, hey, fly me out a day before so I can like check this city out, right? Because that's the beauty of what independent wrestling is. You get this opportunity to go all these places. So I want to make sure that I take the time to like actually see and experience, the culture of a place I'm in. So that's what I did with Dublin. That's what I did with Copenhagen. I spent a few days on each one.
That's really cool. Well,
because I think like the first time I went to Italy, I was in and out in like 24 hours in Milan. Wow. I was like, I would have liked to, see more.
Yeah. Well, it's a good excuse to come back, though, isn't it? It's a good excuse.
It is exactly.
You need to put a little passport together of places you want to go to, and be like, well, there's a wrestling event, so I can work that, and then spend a day on holiday either side. It'd be great.
And it's wild. You look at like there's a company called WrestleMap, WrestleMap.com, I believe it is, and they've mapped pretty much the entire world of like where professional wrestling is on the map. You can look at like Belgium and see what professional wrestling is going on there, and it's such a cool resource. Like because I'm somebody who wants to kind of go to all of these places, kind of like how Matt Cross has done. And kind of check off the boxes of all these like weird and fun places. So it'd be fun to do more in Europe, but I definitely recommend if you have a chance, check out WrestleMap.com.
Yeah, I'll make sure we'll put a link on for that. Thank you for that. Yeah. We need to do a Vertigo World Tour, don't we, really? That's kind of
that's right.
the next on the list. It's obviously, I think I was listening to an interview I think you did it was with Barry Wrestling, where you were talking about you'd like to have obviously eventually work in Japan at some point. What is it about their style of wrestling and their events that makes that so appealable to you?
I think it's just their like the fans' appreciation for wrestling, right? And if you want to make yourself like known as like a serious professional wrestler, that's where you have to go. Everybody goes through Japan to make it, right? So that's definitely like one of those things I just need to get done. And I'm hoping like in the next 2 years that's going to be a possibility.
obviously now you're back from injury. You've got quite a lot of events coming up. You mentioned obviously that it's Limitless, C4, and Northern Crown. What have
Yeah.
you got going on, and are there any feuds that we can kind of really delve into?
So C4 Wrestling, I'm in a rivalry with Cecil Nix right now, where him and Lexi and Nicole broke up, me and my tag partner Gabriel Forza. So right now he's a home wrecker to me. So I attacked him last week, and well, we'll have to see what happens next month. Northern Crown is a debuting promotion in Ontario that has a lot of hope. We have Rocky Romero on the show, Calvin Tankman from the States. So that's a company that I'm really looking forward to see what happens. What else I got going on? I think that's most of the stuff going on for this month, anyways.
Yeah, well, it sounds very busy. I mean, obviously that's the thing. You're very dedicated to making sure you're on as many shows as possible. The storyline where you've got a bit of home record, that's going to be an interesting one. How can obviously, if people can obviously get to the event live, but is there any way people can follow it on? Is there a Fight TV or an online version people can follow the match on?
Yeah, so C4 is always on IWTV, like all their events. I think there's like 160 of them on IWTV now. You can see my matches there from when I was like 18. Like I've been part of that roster since like 2014, I think.
Nice. Okay, I'll put the links on underneath and everything. I've noticed obviously you've got pro wrestling tees. You've got a few things on there, but you've also got a merchandise link for America and Canada. What goes into those designs for your t-shirts? Are they something you come up with yourself?
It's always like a collaborative effort. It depends. Like I come up with an idea and then I shoot it off to a graphic designer. They come up with it, or they kind of make it and then they send it back to me. And then I get it kind of produced myself. And then if it's pro wrestling tees, I'll just give them the design and then they'll kind of shoot it off from there.
Yeah, they all seem quite unique designs. They've got like the hands and the eye.
Yeah.
Quite cool. Yeah, it's really nice. In terms of obviously fans like myself, obviously to help support you, there's obviously like you mentioned the IWTV, the chance to come and see you live and get your merchandise. What are the best ways to follow you online?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can follow me on Twitter at Vaughn Vertigo, Instagram Vaughn Vertigo, YouTube Vaughn Vertigo, TikTok Vaughn Vertigo. If you want to like delve into some like creative stuff I've done, you can check out Backyard Pro, which is a professional wrestling company I made during the pandemic. I say professional loosely. It was a backyard wrestling company using professional wrestlers. It's more of a comedy show. But we had like Josh Alexander and Ethan Page and RJ City come through it during the pandemic because we didn't have really much to do up here in Canada. So I kind of created a solution of making this this YouTube show that's available for free.
Nice. That sounds really exciting. I'll check that out. I've not seen any of that myself yet. We'll have to.
You should definitely check it out.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Would that sort of help you through keeping yourself a bit as sane as possible during that period of time?
Yeah, exactly. Like even like video work, I didn't have much going on, so I kind of wanted to like show that if you. It was also kind of a problem with Ontario wrestling where I went back to like the case that nobody was really filming their shows. I kind of wanted to show that if you put content out, people will watch it. So it was kind of like a solution for that. So we took all these like great professional wrestlers here in Canada, take that away, come up with a new character that's stupid, basically, put him in a backyard setting, and then just see what happens. And the result of it was like really, really stupid comedy, but I'm so proud of what it became.
That's really cool, and what a great stamp to leave as a bit of a legacy as well outside of the ring work. You've got something like that, which when you look at the sort of the mainstream wrestling companies, they're always after talent that can think and do different things. So that really pays well for you.
I'm just hoping that like in 6 years from now, people look back and they're like, why was Josh Alexander wrestling in a basement during the pandemic? That's what I'm hoping for. I wrestled on a mini pot course. Like
you need that on a t-shirt as a quote.
Yeah, true.
And then the logo on the back, it'd be great. It'd definitely go down really well. I'm quite curious actually to people you might want to compete with. Was there anyone sort of on a bucket list of people in the indies at the moment that you would love to just get an opportunity? And have you thought about a location you would like to fight them in?
Oh God, there's a lot of people.
Yeah, sorry, it's a bit loaded on this one.
Yeah, you have to like narrow it down to like Europe or Canada or whatever. I mean, in terms of Canada, I feel like it's like Speedball Mike Bailey. We've always just like missed each other, so that would be a match I'd love to have. Travis Williams is an upcoming guy from Vancouver. I'd love to have the match with as well. Europe, like Michael Oku, we've always been in scrambles and like multi-man matches. I'd love to have a one-on-one with him. Callum Newman, we had one match that he unfortunately got injured in halfway through, so that's another match we need to revisit. God, there's just so many talented guys right now. I
Yeah,
thankfully have been able to do like a lot of my like bucket list matches in Europe, but there's still so many I need to have.
I'd love to see you guys in London, you and Newman. That'd be amazing. And then I could, yeah,
Oh, me and Newman in London would be great. We did it in like Raynham, which is not really London. So
Still a great crowd though. Still a good place. But I think
yeah.
get you guys in London together and battle it out. Nice little storyline to it, building up to maybe a bit of hatred or something rather than a too
Oh,
friendly thing. But yeah, that'd be wicked.
that'd be lovely because he was like 15 years old when I first came over or whatever. He was a kid, and now
Yeah,
he's like a man, right?
yeah. He's just so quick when you watch him. Simmons want to watch matches online. The
Yeah.
speed, movement, and what you do in that level is just insane. And when you see Newman, I've seen Newman live a few times, and it's just the pace that he goes over the ropes. You're just like, how are you doing this? Like, how has there someone projecting you? It doesn't seem to make sense. It's great, but
Hey, he's the Prince of Pace for a reason, right?
yeah, it's like the
It's not just
fastball
a
in cricket.
nickname.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I would love
Robbie
to.
X would be Robbie X is another guy that like we've always talked about how we'd love to wrestle. God, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'd love to see you and Robbie X going at it. Yeah, a Vaughn bomb on him would be pretty cool. He's Lincoln home, so I'm from Lincoln, and he's the Lincoln legend.
Oh
So
man, yeah.
it would be that would be incredible to see that going on. But yeah, thank you very much for your time, Vaughn. I really appreciate it. I'm delighted that you're back from injury. Sorry to have had such a rough time over the last year, but as a fan, we really appreciate what you put yourself through, and would be delighted to see you back in England later this year, hopefully, and we'll see if we can drum up some interest in sort of demand and getting matches against Oku, Callum Newman, and Robbie X, please. That'd be great.
That would be wonderful. I would love to come back, and you know how much the European scene means to me, so that'd be great.
Wicked. All right, all the best. Thank you very much for your time, and have a lovely weekend.
No problem.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.